right now, getting ready for this night, Anthony.
No doubt about that one, partner. Anticipation for history and also growth in this Hawkeye passing attack they're hoping to see.
Marcus Lai handles the kickoffs for UMass, and here's the return for Terrell Washington Jr. And it's a nice return. Puts them in good field position outside the 30-yard line. Well, there's Mark Gronowski. Some of the throws that he's made in these first handful of games and some of the runs that he's been able to make as well for the Iowa Hawkeyes, who win against UAlbany 34-7, a loss 16-13 last week against Iowa State. And Gronowski takes the field tonight as the transfer, of course, from South Dakota State. 49 wins there, a 50th against UAlbany, putting him tied with Kellen Moore for the most wins as a quarterback in Division I college football history. And his first opportunity will be to show off what a capable runner he is. There can be called running plays, or he can try to manufacture something out of a broken moment, as he did there for a pickup of 3 yards.
This particular defensive front for UMass, they'll have the opportunity to be on the move. That's how their defensive staff likes to call it for the Minutemen. So hitting those targets up front on the offensive line, some guys will be free off the edge on purpose. It'll be up to Gronowski to make sure he's making the proper decision.
In the game and running back now is Xavier Williams. Williams has 148 rushing yards to lead the Hawkeyes this year. It's a play pass situation and a deep drop and a long time to throw, and he's going to take a shot, and it's a shot that's converted. It's a catch along the sideline for Sam Phillips. And it's a big moment for the Iowa offense. They want to take shots, they want to be aggressive, and they only had to wait till the second play of the game for that opportunity to happen.
Certainly got the sense from Kirk Ferentz and Tim Lester. This would be a shot play kind of game. They come out right off the bat downfield to Sam Phillips, one of their more talented new acquisitions. The opportunity to get him in space off that double move, a post corner route, time in the pocket for Gronowski.
That almost doubled the previous longest passing play that Iowa's had this year. That was 45 yards. The previous high was 23. And here is a bullet into the end zone. Touchdown, Iowa. Great throw, Gronowski. And it's a touchdown for Seth Anderson. On the drive, Anthony, one short run, a deep shot, and a perfectly thrown ball for the 6.
It's been a dormant passing attack for the Hawkeyes up to this point in the season. No more.
And Drew Stevens with a chance to make it 7-0. He's made every kick he's attempted this year. All 6 extra points now and all 4 field goals, including a long of 55.
So much about the timing of this Tim Lester offense is about the receivers being where they need to be. The landmarks they hit in their route, the stair step that Seth Anderson was able to utilize to burst into the end zone off the run action. Great block in the backfield. Pocket is as clean as can be. And that was a confident pass for Mark Gronowski. Yes, he's won a lot of games. He's played so many games before being with the Hawkeyes, but Danny Rogers just told us a moment ago, he hasn't played like himself with that immense confidence that we were so accustomed to at the FCS level.
Well, as you said, this was going to be an opportunity to take shots tonight. We talked to Tim Lester, the offensive coordinator, yesterday. He said Mark's really efficient at running the offense. He reads coverage, he finds completions. He's honest, he's going to continue to grow and get better, but the thing we want him to do is, if he sees man coverage, be aggressive, take your shot.
And tonight being a shot play sort of game, it's not because they're facing UMass specifically, but the coverage that the Minutemen run. We'll see man coverage, quarters concepts from them on the back end. So it'll show as man to Gronowski in the pocket.
Looked like earlier this week that UMass was going to be very short-handed. They do have a few players initially listed as out early in the week who are available tonight, including T.Y. Harding, number 10, who is back to return that kickoff, but he did not have a chance to do so. They are without Brandon Rose, who has started at quarterback in the first 2 games. So Grant Jordan, who spent 4 years at Yale, by far his biggest opportunity to play was last season, when Jordan at Yale threw for nearly 2,000 yards, ran for 360, had 27 total touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He played in 9 games for Yale in the 2024 season and then moved to the Minutemen in the portal. Rocco Griffin is their leading rusher, and he'll have his first opportunity on a first down and 10 for the 25-yard line, and barely over the line of scrimmage before Aaron Graves, among others, make the stop in front of the fans here at Kinnick Stadium.
It's been a defense for Iowa that, as per usual, has been exceptional through the first couple of games of this season. Some of the stars that we've known of in recent years at linebacker and defensive back, there's been some turnover at the second and third level, still executing at a high level for Phil Parker.
Rocco Griffin, he's the running back. And he's hit in the backfield, trying to spin away from a tackle, but Aaron Graves blows it up. And it will be a tackle for loss, the 9th of the year. There's Aaron Graves, who has over 20 tackles for loss now in his Iowa career, along with Llewellyn, Pace, and Herkett on the front four. Jaden Harrell and Carson Shire. Shire's played a lot, but hasn't started a lot. This is just his 3rd start. Xavier Wampa's got a lot of starting experience in that secondary. Tonight is 26th. Movement, Anthony. UMass averaging 7 penalties per game so far this season. And it looks like they're about to be hit with their first one tonight.
Offense number 79. 5-yard penalty. It's 3rd down.
Brian Macesso at the right tackle. Frankly, Peyton Miller as a guard moved as well. But this Kinnick Stadium crowd, this environment here where the crowd is on top of you, the confines of the sidelines makes it feel like you've got nowhere to go.
And the only place that the Minutemen have been going here over the last few seconds backwards. A loss on 2nd down, a penalty before they can even snap 3rd down. Pressure from Llewellyn, the ball's out from Grant Jordan, but the coverage is excellent. The catch is made by Max Dowling, and the immediate tackle made by Cohen Entringer at safety, making just his 4th career start tonight. To your point about some of the fresh new faces, at least in terms of starters for this Hawkeyes defense.
Entringer has been a really exciting young defender for Iowa for several seasons now. Zach Lutmer playing the cash position, another player in those sub packages especially that Phil Parker has really been excited about watching the continued development.
5th in FBS in punting average this year. Keegan Andrews just over 50 yards per punt. He gets a nice roll here. Caden Weegett picks it up. Ran through 2 tacklers. He's got space. Nice cut. He's got more space. He's picked up some blocks, and he's bumped out of bounds. At the 39-yard line of the Minutemen. Last week was a tough game for the special teams. Kirk Ferentz said it to us yesterday. Special teams didn't help us last week. Caden Weegett just helped him. Special teams really makes a play.
The reigning Big Ten return specialist of the year, making big things happen for the Hawkeyes. Field position already in plus territory for Kirk Ferentz's offense.
The punt was 58 yards with the roll, but then Weegett picked it up, made the initial 2 potential tacklers miss, and it ended up being a 40-yard return.
That's normally what he's great at, being decisive, getting north and south immediately. Had a big mistake against the Cyclones last week running backwards.
Zach Ortworth, the tight end, moved across the formation as Madison Estrenga is out for the year with an Achilles injury suffered in the first half last week. Xavier Williams on the run, and Williams down to the 35-yard line of UMass. Jeremiah McGill on the tackle. And so Mark Gronowski, 65 passing yards on the last drive alone as you look at the comparison of the first 2 games.
And part of it is just about his comfort level with taking shots. Now, on both those completions on the previous drive, the receivers were open, but part of what Tim Lester continues to sort of cajole his new quarterback to do is to trust playmakers in tight coverage.
Anderson, who caught the touchdown pass, is lined up on the left side. Williams is the running back. And another opportunity for Xavier Williams.
Number 56 is
148 yards in the first 2 games.
University of Massachusetts.
And part of the process here, because this is year 2 for Tim Lester running Iowa's offense, he's got quarterbacks, not only Mark Gronowski, Hank Brown, Jeremy Hiklinski, who are now learning his system, but we got to remember, Mark Gronowski missed the entire spring So all that time on task for something that was a completely new conceptual offense to him, he's now just getting these things to become muscle memory.
107 yards in the first 2 games for Jazzian Patterson at running back. He's in, he stays in for pass protection. And a pass to the sideline. Sam Phillips, who had the longest play on the last drive with his 2nd catch of the game. Anthony only caught 1 pass in the first 2 games, and Phillips already has 2 tonight.
If there's nothing else that I think Iowa fans, Big Ten fans watching at home can recognize, back in the opening game, the Albany game, the first pass attempt, Gronowski just on a hitch in a very similar distance to this one, dribbled the ball out to Sam Phillips. We see here early on, he can put RPMs behind the football. There's some velocity when he really steps into it.
And that was a 3rd down conversion, so the ball's at the 24-yard line. Here's a rollout. Phillips had a block on the right side. They throw back to the left, and a lot of blockers for Xavier Williams. This will be 1st and goal. He's upended and will be spotted down to the 4-yard line of UMass. That goes for 20 yards.
Throw back to the running back, showing action to the wide side of the field off the boot. It's such a staple in this offense, so the Minutemen defense all react to the wide side, and then there's a convoy awaiting UMass back to the boundary side on the short end. Bo Stevens, one of those players leading the way. If Bo Stevens is running to me at this point in my life, I'm getting out of the way, Mark.
And Bo Stevens helped plow the road for a 20-yard pass play. Easily the longest for the redshirt freshman. Running back Xavier Williams, he had just 2 catches going into the game. And now looking to the right side, and it's incomplete. Phillips was the intended target. Phillips with 2 catches in this game. Remember, he's a transfer from Chattanooga, where he had over 1,500 receiving yards in his 3 seasons playing for the Mocs.
When you get into the confines of the red zone, especially inside the 10 here, that's where the timing and the trust matters so much. Some of the mesh concepts from receivers crossing in short spaces, but there's often a sea of hands awaiting when you throw an in cut around the 5-yard line and in.
And 5 attempts, that was Gronowski's first incompletion. 2nd and goal at the 4. And Williams on that outside zone run. He is hit just a little bit past the line of scrimmage. Malachi Madison, you see number 54 on the UMass defensive front, getting up off the bottom of the pile.
Several of these players in this UMass defensive front, they've shown that they're able to get into the opposing backfield. They play with some leverage and lean. Now, the beefiest offensive line and the best offensive front they've faced so far this season in Iowa's O-line. They've certainly been able to run the football effectively. Now on 3rd down, from inside the 5 again, what is the trust level for Mark Gronowski to try to put this one in the end zone with his arm?
Hayden Large is in the game, moves across the formation as a tight end. And Gronowski is rolling out, and he puts it on the money, and it's another touchdown. Nice little toe tap by Seth Anderson. He's got both scores of the game for the Hawkeyes.
Fantastic route from Seth Anderson on the outcut and getting Mark Gronowski on the move. It's one of the things that Tim Lester has really recognized, that not only his ability as a runner gaining yards, but just getting him on the move. That patience that was shown from Anderson to break out at the last moment after 2 other bodies were able to clear out the defenders. Beautiful throw and catch from Gronowski to Anderson.
And this has been quite the first half of the first quarter. Other than that, that's only the 2nd missed extra point for Drew Stevens in 91 career extra point attempts as it doinks off the upright. Sam Phillips a big play, Seth Anderson 2 touchdowns, and Kirk Ferentz loving what he's seeing as the Hawkeyes lead 13-0. Impact Players sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense. UMass offense, Iowa defense. Anthony.
Jaquan Gibson, one of the leading receivers in all of college football through the first 2 weeks of action, and we have already seen the impact Aaron Graves can have on the line of scrimmage. TJ Hall playing the best football of his Iowa career on the back end.
Defensive coordinator Phil Parker told us yesterday really that Hall took the big step of going back and reevaluating himself and looking what you have to do to be the best player that you can be. He'll have a chance on defense for Iowa As UMass will be on the field coming up out of this timeout. Kirk Ferentz going for the historic win, number 206 tonight. The first of the 205 wins that Kirk Ferentz has reported here as head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes was 24-0 over Northern Illinois. You see some photos of that night, September 18th, 1999. Current special teams coordinator, part of the great staff that Kirk has here, LeVar Woods, had a blocked field goal return of 87 yards for kind of a dagger touchdown in the fourth quarter of that game in which you played. I've seen you in the highlights running a few yards behind LeVar celebrating, Anthony.
Yeah, it was quite a night. That was the first one. Wasn't expecting to be here 205 wins later.
Rocco Griffin, he's the running back. Here comes pressure from Harrell, and it's a sack of Brad Jordan. Jaden Harrell got there untouched, and Jordan just had to eat it at the 19-yard line, a loss of 6 yards. Right now, we've got a studio update in Chicago from Dave Remsen. Dave.
What up, Dave?
Illinois is rolling early. Luke Altmaier, the touchdown pass here to Hank Beatty, the nation's leader in all-purpose yards. Illinois on top 10-0, second quarter. Guys?
Well, Iowa is rolling here. 13-0 is the lead. Seth Anderson, who had just one touchdown reception in his time at Iowa going into tonight, has 2 touchdown catches. Here is a completion to the aforementioned Jaquan Gibson, his 20th catch of the year. Deshaun Lee bumps him out of bounds. Going into play tonight, Gibson's 9.5 receptions a game, tied for second in FBS.
He's one of the main players that Mike Bajakian, the offensive coordinator for the Minutemen, was telling us. He was confident he wouldn't be daunted stepping into this hostile environment at Kinnick Stadium. And just as we spoke about T.J. Hall, the defensive back who will frequently cover Jaquan Gibson in this game, both are the types of individuals that put the extra work in to make sure they're at their best.
That play went for 7 yards, but they were off schedule after the Harrell sack on first down. It's 3rd and 9. Here's more pressure. Jordan running, looking downfield, across the field, and runs out of real estate. He's forced out of bounds a couple of yards behind the line of scrimmage with Max Llewellyn, young man, the senior from Urbandale, Iowa, chasing after him. Has 1 sack going into tonight's game so far this season.
Llewellyn is the spin doctor. That is his go-to move when the opponent is behind the chains and he knows it's a passing down in distance. He loves to set up the offensive tackle and then whip that spin move back to the inside. But then think about that athleticism after he spun in to be able to chase down an extremely athletic quarterback like Brett Jordan.
8 of Andrews' first 9 punts pinned opponents inside the 20-yard line, but his low-line drive punt last time was very returnable. Caden Weegan had a 40-yard return, but this is a short punt and angles off to the sideline. An excellent field position again for the Hawkeyes. This goes out of bounds, a 33-yard punt. And the Hawkeyes will be at their own 48 here in Iowa City. Possession number 3 of the game.
The old Capitol.
Impact Players, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense.
NFL draft evaluators salivating over Jennings Dunker, not just over his hair, but over his game. And Zach Ortworth will be more utilized as a tight end because Addison Ostrenga no longer in the lineup. Timmy Hinspeeder, he joined his head coach, Joe Harris-Semiak from Rutgers, and now is a Minuteman.
They said they feel really good about how well he communicates and knows the defense. This is flared out to Terrell Washington Jr. and T.J. Washington on a drive for Iowa that starts at their own 48. Already they move it over midfield, a pickup of 6 yards, and we see Washington's versatility on display. And
to be able to utilize that, I mean, a guy who was a slot receiver, running back as well in this scenario. Look at what's happening tonight from Iowa with 13 points already. Had only 3 in the first two games in the first quarter.
And they're in good position here. 2nd down and 4. And Gronowski will roll out after the fake handoff. A lot of time, but unable to connect on a first throw of the night to K.J. Parker. He does not have a catch, the redshirt freshman this year. Jeremiah McGill was the defender on the play.
So one-on-one matchups are what Tim Lester is really trying to coach Mark Gronowski to be willing to go after, to attack. So he decided late to go to K.J. Parker on the out route. But there was an opportunity up top for Dayton Howard, who's matched up on a double move. Now, the defensive back didn't bite, but he's one-on-one outside the numbers. Those are the opportunities that I think Gronowski will continue to grow towards taking.
Here's some motion and throwing to the motion man. Patterson, the running back on the left side. And going into that 3rd and 4 play, Iowa was 2 of 14 on 3rd downs of 4 or longer this year, and they just converted on a well-executed pass to Patterson.
And the best offenses do what we're seeing Iowa doing early in this game. You attack the defense with the run game, of course, but then you attack them both horizontally and vertically. We haven't seen the vertical pass even attempted through the first 2 games. Now you're seeing it play a factor tonight.
Ball's just inside the 42, and Patterson has a big hole to run through. He's tackled at the 35-yard line. Just to clean up 3rd down talk, when it's 3rd and shorts, including 2 times tonight, Iowa 15 of 18 on 3rd and 3 or less this year.
Not bad, especially when you got a quarterback who goes over 230 pounds and does not mind taking a pounding in his own right. Jazian Patterson, I mean, coming off another game against Iowa State, that tends to be throughout his Hawkeye career who he's at his best against. We saw that on display again last week. But this is an offense that's looking for perhaps that singular back to emerge, especially with Kamari Moulton out of the lineup.
Jacob Gill went motion across the formation. Washington is the running back, and Gronowski will step up, bumps into an offensive lineman, but is able to create a little bit of positive yardage before Tim Grant Randall is able to make the tackle. He's a transfer from Eastern Michigan. Played there 3 years now in year 2 at UMass. Grant Randall.
In evaluating what the defense is presenting, I referenced muscle memory. And when these Iowa receivers, the landmarks that they're accustomed to hitting, they're expected to hit that yardage. You want to be just about 1.5 yards short if you're the underneath crosser. And it looked there like Sam Phillips was perhaps just a bit too deep as he was crossing underneath of Kate Weech.
Running back is Jazian Patterson. Here's another 3rd down play, and it's a big handoff to Patterson. Ortworth with the catch. He's in space, easily a 1st down, and has it right on the edge of the red zone now. Hinch-Peter with the tackle, Ortworth with the catch. The 14th of his career here at Iowa for the junior from St. Louis.
He who hesitates is lost, especially at quarterback. And so you've just got to get to a mode where you trust your eyes and let it rip. That's what we're seeing so far in the game tonight from Mark Gronowski. Off the run action in the backfield, knowing precisely where he wants to go with the ball.
Tim Lester did tell us yesterday hesitation creates some problems for quarterbacks in the offense. That went for 14 yards, by the way, to Ortworth. And now here's Kate Weech, and that is in the end around, and he's running through a hole, and it's going to lead him all the way to the end zone. He dives, and he's hit. Touchdown! 20 yards on the run. A little razzle-dazzle on that play for Weech and the Hawkeyes.
And it certainly was close toward the end as Weech looking to dive across that front pylon. The jet going airborne into the paint for the Hawks. I believe he got in, Mark.
I believe he did as well. And this will set up Drew Stevens, who made the first extra point, hit the upright, hit the left upright on his second. Angled toward the left upright, but it's good. It's 20-0 with 2:08 left in the first quarter. Weech on the 20-yard touchdown run.
This Kirk Ferentz offense attacking both the latitude and the longitude of the Minutemen defense. Weech going airborne. Captain Kirk cleared for takeoff.
(20-0). Iowa leads with 2:08 left in the first quarter. Kirk Ferentz came to Iowa from the Baltimore Ravens, where he was an offensive line coach. Started in 1999 here in Iowa, and going into tonight, 205 wins at Iowa. Tied with Woody Hayes for the most in Big Ten history. Right now, the first 250 fans will get $20 off a Big Ten Plus annual pass. Stream nearly 200 Iowa games, plus 2,500 more events across the Big Ten this season. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to big10plus.com and make sure to enter FB20 when selecting an annual pass at checkout and take advantage of this great offer to watch, again, over 200 Iowa games and nearly 2,500 more events across the Big Ten this season. 20-yard run put Iowa up 20-0. Caden Weegan with the run, and the Hawkeyes are in front. And here's a keeper by Grant Jordan. They had faked the handoff to Colorado transfer Brandon Hood. And Jordan, who is starting tonight at quarterback for UMass, with Brandon Rose, the starter, out for the first 2 games.
From a game plan perspective, Jordan gives them their most mobility they can access at quarterback. Now, he's not as refined a passer as the starter, Brandon Rose, but to be multi-dimensional against this Hawkeye defense, historically against the Phil Parker defense, those are the quarterbacks that have given him the most fits.
They've gone empty here after the run by Jordan. Picked up 3 on first down. And now here comes Harrell. He already has 1 sack tonight. And he was coming in hot. And that forced the off-target throw with Jaquan Gibson, the intended receiver.
You mentioned Jaden Harrell, and the term we use in football is green dogging. If you're confident that your responsibility as a running back is taken, then this call indicates that Jaden Harrell now has the opportunity to blitz into the backfield. And when they go empty, as long as Harrell knows that coverage is covered on the back on the outside, then he is attacking the pocket.
With the 3 yards that Jordan gained on first down, UMass now has 3 yards of offense in the first quarter. Hood is now back in the backfield. 3rd down and 7. Jordan has more time this time, but he runs out of time, and he is down. They have stopped the play.
Is he?
Ethan Herkins. That was an interesting call. I'm not going to lie.
But the blitz package, there was a looper who came around from the outside for the Hawkeyes. You referenced Ethan Herkins. But the reason that this got home so effectively is because of the fact that Iowa went man coverage on the back end, and it was gloved up at the 3rd level. Folks tend to think of Phil Parker's defense as one that goes cover 2 and all these zone concepts. They're willing to go man across the board, especially on 3rd down.
First quarter winding down as Keegan Andrews punts it here. Weegan, who's had a big punt return and a touchdown run, just ran out of 1 tackle, but too many bodies to elude in the end, and he stopped at the 48-yard line. This will be the 2nd drive for Iowa, starting from their own 48. Remember, at the end of the first quarter, stay tuned here on Big Ten Network. We always show you the Kinnick wave between the first and second quarter. And our outstanding crew has gone to work research-wise, and you got to go back to 2016 against Purdue. The most points that Iowa has scored in a first quarter in 9 seasons, with the 20 that they have tonight.
I certainly got the sense in talking to Kirk Ferentz and Tim Lester that they felt really good about the growth of Mark Gronowski and what he is as an individual evaluator of himself. The opportunities that have been there through the first 2 games that hadn't been seized quite yet.
Xavier Williams started tonight at running back, but all 3 of the big 3 in the backfield for Iowa, including Jazian Patterson and T.J. Washington, they've all played tonight and all had their moments to touch the ball. That touch for Williams was a 1-yard gain on what will be likely the final play of the first quarter. You see the teams headed for the sideline, but of course, we're not going anywhere, because what makes Kinnick Stadium and Iowa football so special, among many things, is what has been happening here for over a decade. You see the Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital, and one of the great traditions of college sports, the wave to the children who are at the hospital.
At the Stead Family Children's Hospital.
Football on the Big Ten Network is brought to you by Graduate by Hilton. Spirited stays in your favorite college towns. And by Auto Owners Insurance. Kirk Ferentz is poised to join a very special club. You look at some of the notable coaches who have won the most games in the Big Ten in their respective sports. Tom Izzo, men's basketball at Michigan State. Earlier, and those faces, you saw Lisa Bluter, who won 528 games as the women's basketball coach here at the University of Iowa. A run for Gronowski goes out of bounds. And right now, let's get a studio update, that is, with Dave Rebson. Dave.
Yeah, Mark, after a couple of drives fizzled in the red zone, Ohio State finally got into the end zone against Ohio U. It's Julian Sand to Max Clare, his first touchdown as a Buckeye, 13-0 over the Bobcats.
Well, Dave, in your years at Big Ten Network, obviously you've covered a lot of those coaches that we just saw the photos of. Carol Hutchins, most wins in softball history for a head coach of the Big Ten, most wins in NCAA history at Michigan. John Anderson, the baseball head coach at Minnesota. Over 1,300 wins before his recent retirement. Russ Rose, volleyball at Penn State, the defending national champions. This drive for Iowa ends 3 and out, and they will punt for the first time in the game. And so with win number 206, whenever it happens, and obviously things are looking very favorable with tonight's start for Iowa at 20-0, then he will move into that group. We just talked about some of the notable coaches who lead their respective sports in coaching victories in the Big Ten. Some pressure on this punt, and it's blocked. The punt for Reese Dakin is blocked, and the Minutemen have picked it up. And that's the first real hiccup of the game for Iowa. The ball in the end is recovered by Zachary Ferris. There were a number of players who were bearing down on Reese Dakin, and it looked like that maybe it was Kezion Dia-Johnson who gets free to block it. It is wide receiver number 14, Kezion Dia-Johnson, with the block punt.
That was textbook from the punt rush squad of the Minutemen. Dia-Johnson making sure he goes to the point where the punter is going to finish his motion. Pretty frequently the mistake is made to go to where the punter is. End up getting a roughing call.
UMass will have good field position after this timeout. Down and injured, went off the field. UMass ran a play, a short pass, turned into an 8-yard gain for Rocco Griffin. And Griffin will line up in the backfield. He's the starting running back alongside Brent Jordan, making his first start at quarterback at UMass, the transfer from Yale. Griffin is running. Reese Atkins at tight end blocking for him. And after this block punt put UMass at the 21-yard line, they have run the ball on second down after they threw it on first down and have a 1st and goal at the 7.
It's an Iowa defense that certainly doesn't have a lot of in-game film yet on Grant Jordan, but you can tell they've scouted the fact that he's the more mobile between the quarterbacks who've played so far. So that backside of the Hawkeye defense, not pursuing that hard, it is right now providing a potential cutback lane to the Minutemen running backs.
Rocco Griffin, pistol back. Running the ball on 1st and goal. And he is wrapped up by Jaden Harrell after a short game.
And one coaching point I would make to Grant Jordan is because of the fact that he is so mobile, him carrying out his play fake with more urgency, that can be one of those things that provides that cutback lane I'm referencing to his running back. When you burst out of there as a QB and the edge of the defense, can't tell whether or not you handed it off. There could be 1 or 2 tacklers who are slow to react and provide your back the cutback.
In his 7th year playing FBS football, Jawan Price is in the game at running back for the Minutemen. A play fake to him. Jordan. He is able to spin away from the rush, got away from Jonah Pace, keeps the ball, makes a pass, runs for the end zone, scores. Touchdown for Grant Jordan. 6 yards, and the first rushing touchdown allowed by the Hawkeyes this year.
He's been at his best so far as a UMass quarterback in these second reaction moments. The opportunity to try and throw it into the end zone, no one open, but then recognize that he had the Hawkeye defense outflanked.
Well, they had two choices, Grant Jordan or A.J. Hairston to start at quarterback. And when we talked with Joe Harrisimiak, their first-year head coach, on Thursday, he said that the ability that Jordan has to extend the play is why they wanted to start him in this game. And he extended that play to a tune of a 6-yard touchdown. The fifth-year senior, originally from New Orleans, scores the first points of the game for the Minutemen. Big Ten Plus gives you access to more live Big Ten games, and on Wednesday you could see a rivalry volleyball matchup between the Hawkeyes and Iowa State. Download the Big Ten Plus app today. It's always game on. Iowa volleyball started 6-0. They suffered their first 2 losses of the season over the weekend in the Southeast Missouri Invitational. They'll take a 7-2 record for the 2025 campaign into that meeting with Iowa State's rivalry volleyball matchup in Coralville, to be specific, at the Extreme Center. We have walked by that volleyball arena in the past, Anthony.
Folks do love that venue, not only volleyball, but a wide variety of sporting events coming to that Iowa City, Coralville area.
Marcus Lai handles the kickoffs. He's not the place kicker, but he's got the big leg for the kickoffs, and Legion is going to run this out. Took it 4 or 5 yards deep, and he sweeps his way up the near sideline. Was able to elude one man who made a half-hearted arm tackle attempt and then is out near the 35-yard line. That's Joe Harrisimiak. He's got Big Ten experience in his DNA. First season as UMass head coach. He has been a head coach at Maine. By the way, so has Kirk Ferentz.
Right.
A little interesting coincidence about tonight's game. Harrisimiak spent the last 3 years on Greg Schiano's staff as the defensive coordinator at Rutgers, and the 39-year-old from Ridgewood, New Jersey, told us Thursday he just said he thought things aligned for him at this point in his career to get back to being a head coach, and he felt like this was the right opportunity. Officially the 34-yard line for the Hawkeyes. Jazian Patterson protects the ball and then is held up at the 38-yard line before he could go any farther. And it was D.D. Snyder who had an interception late in last week's loss to Bryant for UMass, who makes that tackle.
Been really impressed with the Iowa offensive line, and I know it feels a bit superfluous just to sort of say that about an Iowa group up front.
Well, they're protecting well right now, Anthony. They faked it to Patterson, and it's Sam Phillips, another big play. Out of bounds to the 39-yard line of the Minutemen, got a foot down in bounds. And on 2nd and 5, it is another shot, and it goes for 22.
Phillips is only 5'7", so it's not like you've got some sort of a 6'5" skyscraper to fit this ball into near the sideline. So that just accentuates the accuracy showcased right there by Mark Gronowski to be able to get this right near this sideline to Phillips.
142 passing yards for Iowa tonight after that completion. And they have surpassed their combined number for the first 2 weeks as Patterson runs the ball. 3-yard pickup for Jazian Patterson from Pompano Beach, Florida.
I was referencing the offensive line, Mark, and just the movement that these guys get up front. Logan Jones on the inside, and Bo Stevens has been a road grader for Iowa this season. They just constantly move defenders backwards against their will. A couple of guys early in the season playing at an All-American level. We've known about it from Logan Jones, but Bo Stevens, Cade Pieper, especially on the interior. His O-line is moving, folks.
Cade Pieper tonight, just his 3rd career start, incomplete. DJ Bonami, who elevates in the tight end room now and in the tight end rotation with the injury for Addison Ostrenga. He did catch one pass last week against the Cyclones.
I was talking to Abdul Hodge, the tight ends coach for Iowa, before the game down on the field. And he does love the potential for many of his young tight ends. But Addison Ostrenga being out for the season for the Hawkeyes, a huge loss because he's played so much football for them throughout his career. And he does the full arsenal of the tight end position well. Inline blocking, splitting out, knowing the entire playbook.
They're down and 7, 36-yard line of UMass. Pressure on Gronowski, running out of room, and throws the ball away. Well, he was being chased into the near sideline both by Tyler Martin and David Onaha. Saw Tyler Martin headed to the UMass sideline. He had a pick six of 23 yards in their loss to Bryant last week.
Really talented linebacker.
Well, we know that this is in Drew Stevens' bag because he's hit from 55 this year. This is a 54-yard attempt. Bonami's coming on the field here at the last second to block. Ty Nissen is set to hold. And let's see if Stevens can hit another long kick. He's really good on these, and that's on the money in his career now. Stevens is 10 of 15 on kicks from 50 yards plus. 55 of his long, 54 is that one, and another long distance connection made by Drew Stevens.
The power in this young man's leg, otherworldly.
23-7, Iowa leads UMass, 9:50 left in the second quarter. Kirk Ferentz, 70 years old, 27 years at Iowa as head coach, going for that historic 206th victory tonight. Let's go back to suburban Pittsburgh, Upper St. Clair, Pennsylvania, Upper St. Clair High School. You just saw the yearbook photo, you saw the football team photo, and he's on their Hall of Fame at Upper St. Clair High School. You know, the picture next to him as we see Drew Stevens kickoff here go into the end zone. The picture next to him obviously was a very special man in Kirk's life. That was Joe Moore, who was his high school football coach, and then Joe Moore went on to an outstanding career as an offensive line coach with Pitt and with Temple and with Notre Dame. And Kirk said yesterday, he said, you know, I didn't want to become a head coach. I wanted to be a great offensive line coach, but he said, Joe Moore, I think, you know, he influenced me a lot, and he wanted me to, I think he wanted me to be a head coach. And it's obviously great to see those photos from Kirk back in the day. You like the yearbook picture, I can tell, Big Ant.
Yes, sir, I did.
This is UMass. Their first touchdown of the game was on the last possession with the short field after the block punt. Here's Brandon Hood. A play forced to the outside and a loss of 2 yards.
I mean, when we first met Kirk Ferentz back in late 1998, we immediately thought, okay, this guy's all business all the time. We didn't know he had the party going on in the back. This is new information.
1972 to 76 in high school in Upper St. Clair. Played college football at Connecticut. Grant Jordan had a touchdown run of 6 yards. He stood in the pocket for a while, but now he's chased out. And along the near sideline, he is gathered in ultimately by Zach Lutmer. Starts at that cash position in Phil Parker's defense from Rock Rapids, Iowa.
And watch the speed that Lutmer is able to track down the athletic Grant Jordan with over towards the sideline. It's a really fast-flowing, pursuing Iowa defense. A lot of times their zone eyes that put them in pursuit, but that energy and effort, that is the hallmark of every great defense that Phil Parker has led here for the Hawkeyes.
Phil Parker's been the defensive coordinator since 2012, but on staff since Kirk Ferentz arrived here in 1999. On third down. And before Herget can get there, the sack was made by Max Llewellyn. Well, we saw that spin move by Herget, but Llewellyn beat him to the quarterback.
Both edges collapsing around Grant Jordan. And as Llewellyn rushes to corner, the long arm gets him home, because then you can stand up the offensive tackle, Ryan Macesso, and once his leverage is up, you saw the great mechanics being shown there by Llewellyn to chop down that outside hand and burst.
Keegan Andrews from Australia standing in the end zone right now to field the snap on the punt. Weechin has had a 40-yard return tonight. This is Andrews' best boot of the game, but he outkicks the coverage, so there are all kinds of lanes for Weechin on this return. Going to take it all the way down near the 20-yard line. A 32-yard punt return for Weechin. Two big plays. plays on special teams. And remember that he's also run the ball in on and end around for a touchdown from 20 yards out tonight.
It's the most expansive role that Caden Weechin has had on the Iowa offense, but he came to fame with the Hawkeyes because of his ability to do things just like this. A return specialist like few others, and then that tinge of disappointment you see on his face because he got run down from behind. Now he was throttling down a bit. The other player was at full speed, but the Jet is not accustomed to anyone tracking him down.
Weechin averaged over 12.5 yards per punt return last year. Had a punt return touchdown in a game against Northwestern. And he's had 2 long returns tonight. Here comes pressure, and Henspeeder with the sack coming in off the edge, the linebacker. Brings Gronowski down to the 29-yard line, a loss of 7.
By design, there's a free rusher that came off the edge. You slide the protection down, you get Ortworth out of the backfield. This is where Mark Gronowski has to know that a free rusher has the potential to come, and he's got to have his eyes prepared to go hot. Just didn't seem to ever see the oncoming Minuteman.
Second leading tackler on the UMass defense. Henspeeder played 18 games in 3 years at Rutgers. Handoff, Xavier Williams lowers his shoulder and looks for contact. He's able to bang off T.J. McGee and is down to the 20. That's a run of 9 yards. Nice rebound from the loss of 7 on the sack.
Xavier Williams is a load. I mean, some guys who are big in stature and maybe their body mass says they're heavy, they don't all run heavy. But Xavier Williams, he is a headache waiting to happen, about 230 bills. And once he gets that head of steam going, it's a headache waiting to happen for any defender in his path.
Kirk Ferentz told us yesterday that they love what all 3 backs can do, but they're really curious to see what Xavier Williams can do with his first opportunity in playing time after watching him throw in practice last year. Seth Anderson has 2 touchdowns tonight, but that pass a little bit behind him and an incompletion. He had pressure coming from Marcus White. He already has 1 sack this year.
Fantastic move on the inside. Was able to beat Cade Pieper. A counter move, set him up to the outside shoulder in the B gap, and then did a chop club over the top. Great rush by Marcus White.
White had 9.5 sacks in 4 years at Dartmouth and 3.5 last year in a season playing for the McNeese State Cowboys. Here's another field goal attempt, already making one from 54 yards. And remember that it's got to be inside of the upright, and so that field goal goes over, but no good. A miss for Drew Stevens, just barely, and so it'll be UMass ball after this timeout. It's still 23-7. The last field goal attempt deemed to be no good, but let's get more on this from our rules analyst, Steve Stremling. Walk us through this here, Steve.
Yeah, so there's only one person here that can take a look at this, and that's the official directly under that post, and he's going to look straight up. And that ball has to cross completely inside of the goalpost. And now because it's above it, it is not reviewable because it's hard to get all the dimensions in to see exactly where it crosses. That goalpost extends straight up.
Well, thanks for the update on that, Steve. Here is a tackle and a crunching tackle made. Cohen Entringer knocks down Northwestern transfer Donnie Gray, who was running the ball in the end arounds.
And with the missed field goal, I'm sure there are folks watching at home like, wait a minute, when it hit the net, it was obviously between the 2 uprights, but there are 2 officials on those place kicks, on the field goal opportunities, standing one of them each under the upright, looking directly up at it.
Gray just went for 9. Jordan's going to keep it, and he picks up the first down. Xavier Wampa with the tackle after a gain of 4 yards to the 33. This is just my thought on it.
Yep.
This kick looked more good than the field goal last week that was called good for Iowa's Drew Stevens against Iowa State. The ball that one that went over the upright.
I'm guessing there's at least 1 or 2 Hawkeye fans out there who might agree with you on that one, Mark.
The 38-yard attempt deemed to be no good. It goes over the top of the upright, and as Steve said, it's the NCAA rule is inside of the upright. And that one deemed to be outside, over the top. Jaquan Gibson with the catch of the low pass, but still had space and blockers to turn it upfield and turn this into a 2nd down and 3 coming up.
It's a real opportunity for UMass here offensively, because early in the game, throughout much of the first quarter, there was sort of the tidal wave of Hawkeye explosiveness on offense, and then the defense wasn't giving them any air. But now that they've settled into this game, you're seeing, especially utilizing the legs of Grant Jordan, they've been able to get something going here.
We'll see what Mike Bajakian wants to do. This is a good situation for an offensive coordinator. 2nd and 3. It's a roll and throw. And it's a catch made by Max Dowling. Jaden Harrell, the tackle, right at the 1st down line to gain. It is a 1st down for UMass.
That's really more of a red zone play that they ran. But on 2nd and 3, it can be just as effective even out around midfield, to quickly boot the quarterback out and get an athletic tight end to outflank the defense. It gives you that run-pass option. Jordan did have the potential to try to move the sticks with his legs.
Dowling's 4th catch of the year. He's a transfer from Tennessee Martin. Bouncing it to the outside. And Rocco Griffin is thrown down by Carson Shire.
It's great diagnosis by Shire. And the play was forced to bounce because on the interior, Jonah Pace did such a great job hitting the blocks inside, so it had to be bounced by Rocco Griffin, and that's precisely where the linebacker is expected to fit. You work downhill, and then once you read it, you've got to fit into the opposing backfield. That is textbook stuff from Carson Shire.
5th-year senior from Iowa Falls. This is his 1st year as a starter. But as Phil Parker said, he's been in those meeting rooms like all of these 1st-year starters. They've been learning the defense, hearing the messages in the meeting rooms. Well, this is a short pickup here on 2nd down. It'll be 3rd down and long coming up on the play for Rocco Griffin. Aaron Graves among those who were part of keeping that to a fairly short gain.
And that's just sensational hustle from Aaron Graves, by the way. The 300-pounder all the way from the interior of the Iowa defensive front. Initially, a tackle was missed, but then Graves just running out of the stack. His defensive line coach knows he loves that one. That's Kelvin Bell coaching the D-line for the Hawkeyes.
We have reached the 2-minute timeout of the 1st half. Big night as Kirk Ferentz goes for win number 206, the most for a head football coach in Big Ten history. Dante Moore leads the 4th-ranked Ducks into a rivalry showdown with Oregon State next Saturday at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. It will be their 129th meeting, Oregon and Oregon State. The tie for 2nd most in FBS. Of course, the most, Paul Bunyan's Axe, Minnesota and Wisconsin. UMass coming out of the 1st half 2-minute timeout has a 3rd down and 9 at their 44. Aaron Graves a rush. Jackson Rexroth the rush. Grant Jordan backpedaling, throwing off balance, and a leaping catch is made, but short of the 1st down at the 50. There's also a flag down as well. The catch was made by Donnie Gray. Officially, the ball is down right now at the 49 of UMass with a marker down. First you had pressure from Graves, then from Rexroth, then from Shire.
Pressure from the Hawkeyes in general.
Personal
General
foul.
pressure.
Targeting. Defense number 43. Forearm to the helmet of the quarterback. That play is under further review.
I thought in live action, Mark, there was potential for this. It was a huge hit that Grant Jordan took from Carson Shire. Now Shire's going in. He's turning his head to the side. And so what was said by the official is there was a forearm to the head. So they'll have the opportunity here to review this. We got Steve Stremling available here. And Steve, the defender, we know how the game has now evolved to where a lot of defenders are trying to still turn to the side. In this scenario, do you see the UMass quarterback, even though he's out of the pocket, he's still in a passing posture? So is he defenseless here?
Yeah, he's absolutely still defenseless as a passer. And what we didn't hear is we didn't hear the words roughing the passer with targeting. So the contact is different standards of roughing versus targeting. I see this more as roughing the passer. They'll have to see if there's direct contact and forcible contact.
After further review, the ruling on the field has changed. The contact was shoulder to shoulder. Number 43 is not disqualified from the ball game. The results of the play is a completed pass. It's 4th down.
So, Steve, we just heard Jeff Cervinsky's explanation, and we didn't see forcible contact to the head or neck area. That's kind of the bottom line of that, isn't it?
Correct, and this is the correct pickup review by the review team. It's not forcible contact, it is shoulder to shoulder. If there's some contact to the head or neck, roughing the passer would be more likely to come into play.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And that's where these scenarios for the officials, you know, they're in real time, and then of course the replay officials upstairs, all these different indicators matter because the quarterback being outside the pocket, but they're in a passing posture, he's not truly a ball carrier yet, and that matters when you're ruling for targeting.
And by the way, Anthony, that still leaves the game decision now for UMass to make. Donnie Gray caught it at the 49, so they have 4th down and 4, and it looks like they're going for it.
Joe Harris-Simiak rolling the dice at midfield.
In the game at running back, it's Brandon Hood. How about this moment? 4th and 4, late in the first half. UMass in the Iowa Hawkeyes logo at midfield, and a timeout
University of Massachusetts. 30 seconds.
1:31 left of the first half. We're back in 30 seconds here on the Big Ten Network at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. Well, you saw the crescendo, you heard the crescendo of noise from the 70,000 fans here. They were getting into it, thinking they would be needed to be that 12th man on defense on a 4th down and 4. And the offense is coming back out after the timeout for UMass.
It's a 2-score game late in the first half. If I'm Joe Harris-Simiak, to me, you line this up and quick kick it, hope you can pin him down. This is an uber aggressive decision in a 2-score game with a minute and a half to go.
And play is not quite ready to resume yet. One official has come over to be positioned now on the near side of the field. Remember that there was a review for a targeting call on Carson Shire, but then after the review, the call was changed, no targeting, so Shire stays in the game, and he'll be called into action here. He's lined up on the right edge of the line of scrimmage on the defensive front for Iowa. UMass, they're going for it. 4th and 4 for the 49. Ball's out quickly, but way too far in front of the intended receiver. Deshaun Lee on coverage, Tyree Kelly. That was the way that Grant Jordan was throwing the ball, but not really close.
The thing is, he had him open. He certainly had an opportunity to complete this pass, and even out of the timeout, frankly, Iowa did still seem a bit uncertain on the outside as the tight end motioned and split out from the formation. These are things you cover in punt safe, but in the end, the pass went awry. Grant Jordan, not quite as consistent a passer. It's part of the reason he's not usually the starting quarterback for the Minutemen, and now you've gift-wrapped plus territory for the Hawkeyes late in the second quarter.
Yes, you very well explained why the pass went awry for Grant Jordan. And now Iowa for the 49 of the Minutemen. And knocking on the door of a 1st down immediately. T.J. McGee making the tackle on the run play by Xavier Williams.
Joe Harris-Simiak, the UMass head coach, he certainly does have head coaching experience prior to this. That, to me, from a game flow perspective, just too aggressive a decision.
And now standing in the pocket. And a throw for Williams. This will bring up 3rd down and 1 as it's incomplete. They did not opt to use one of the 3 timeouts still in their pocket. Now the clock will stop on the incompletion with 1:04 left in the first half.
So with 1:04 as your reference, plenty of time here on 3rd and 1. This is, in my opinion, definitively 4-down territory for Kirk Ferentz, where you're not outside of the range of Drew Stevens, as we've certainly seen even in tonight's game, but opportunity now for a Hawkeye aggression because of where they started this drive.
Stevens has made one from 54 tonight, and a cut back into some space for Xavier Williams, and easily attains the 1st down. Piece of cake for that one for Williams to the 31-yard line of the Minutemen. And for a moment, the clock will stop as they move the chains.
So no need for Iowa to be in any sort of rush right now.
Now they've gone under a minute to play. Pocket for Gronowski. He steps up, throws on the move, and it hits Seth Anderson in the hands. He can't hang on. 2 touchdown receptions tonight for Anderson, but does not catch that pass along the sideline.
And these are sort of small things, Mark, but the fact that the nose of this football is, the front of the nose is up, and the decision for Gronowski going towards the sideline where his receiver, Seth Anderson, is waiting for the ball, it's a very small thing. There's been several drops throughout the night for Iowa tonight. I do think you're seeing growth in this passing attack. There's still room for them to continue growing.
Anderson's caught the touchdowns. The biggest plays have been to Sam Phillips. Motion into the backfield for DJ Bonami. Chips an edge rusher, and a bullet over the middle. That's a nice pass. Caught inside the 20-yard line, down to the 16. Jacob Gill went into the night as the leading receiver in terms of number of catches this year for Iowa. That went for 17.
The drop is a big part of the point of emphasis for Gronowski, working with Tim Lester, the calm, smooth drop he's looking for.
And now a quick pass to the outside, and we see Dayton Howard in the game, and Howard with his first catch of 2025. Darion Craig with a tackle. And a timeout. Looks like it will
First
be taken
charge.
here. It will.
Team timeout, Iowa. 30 seconds.
Ball is down to the 18-yard line, and Iowa takes a timeout with 32 seconds left in the first half. We're back at 30.
From start to finish. Learn more about
The line of scrimmage will be the 13-yard line for Iowa coming out of this timeout. Kirk Ferentz, 205 wins at Iowa. And of course, remember that he has 9 years of assistant coaching experience at Iowa as well, along with 27 years as being the head coach. Going for Big Ten history tonight. Gronowski, and this looks like a called quarterback run from the 13-yard line, bumped at the 5 and into the end zone. You see that big, tough body of Mark Gronowski bouncing off Minutemen and in for the score.
The most exuberant we have seen this Hawkeye signal caller 2.5 games into his Iowa career.
It's his 3rd rushing touchdown this year. Drew Stevens had an extra point cannon off the upright tonight. This one almost straight down the middle. And the lead up to 23 points, 30-7. After Gronowski runs for 13 yards, bouncing off defenders and spinning and into the end zone. We're back at 30 seconds. 30-7 after the 13-yard run for Mark Gronowski. You know, if you look at his non-sack rushing attempts this year, remember that sacks are deducted from your rushing yardage. But his non-sack runs have averaged about 4.5 yards per carry this season. And you see him turn this into a 13-yard run for a touchdown.
They had Logan Jones in front of him, and that initial hesitation just to allow the block to set up. That showcases the experience that Mark Gronowski has as a ball carrier. There's frankly much more growth for him to make as a pocket passer in the full arsenal of quarterbacking than as a ball carrier. We knew coming in when he joined the program, this is a multi-dimensional talent at QB, but he wasn't a guy who had a volume of pass attempts at South Dakota State.
At South Dakota State, by the way, he had 37 rushing touchdowns in the over 50 games that he played there. Now UMass with the ball. Remember, they went for it on 4th and 4 and at their own 49, didn't make it. That gave Iowa the opportunity for the score and will give them a much bigger cushion going into the halftime locker room here at 30-7.
Joe Harris-Semiak did tell us he's got the book. He knows what it says. There are those moments where you just have to go with your sense, go with your gut. We spoke to him about that this week. This, to me, was a situation where that level of aggression and that
cheer for UMass. It's the first all-time meeting between Iowa and the Minutemen from Massachusetts. And a fair catch. So it will go out to the 25-yard line for the Minutemen. Speaking of UMass, Danny Rogers just spoke with their head coach, Joe Harasimiak.
In the locker room, Harasimiak's #1 message to his team was, hey, we can't quit. Let's see what you've got on the road against Iowa. In terms of going 0 for 5 on 3rd down offensively for UMass, he said we have to block up front, not get into 3rd and long situations. You have to keep it manageable against a team like Iowa. And then in terms of limiting Caden Weegan in the return game for Iowa, Harasimiak told me, very simply put, we're just going to kick the ball out of bounds now.
Well, that wouldn't be the worst strategy. Max Dowling went in motion, a jump cut to the outside, and then swerving back inside is Rocco Griffin, and he gains 8.
I mean, when you're the head man, as Joe Harasimiak, you get to make that call. It's been a difficult time trying to contain Caden Weegan as he's been returning, whether it's been as a punt returner or a kick returner. So why even put your team, your squad, in that scenario?
5 years in FBS prior to this year for Rocco Griffin. Ran for over 1,330 yards between 3 seasons at Vanderbilt and 2 at UTSA. And another run for Griffin and a first down picked up. Aaron Graves drags him down to the 39, but the gain of 6 on 3rd down and 2 will move the sticks.
Really nice cut to be able to sneak his way through the hole for Rocco Griffin. It's a great look at running through the smoke right here because it doesn't immediately appear that there's a crease to run through. He starts in one hole and then at the last moment just darted back to where he knew the hole would declare. It's excellent work at an experienced running back setting up his carry.
Kyle Brown, a transfer from Dartmouth, played 5 years there, helped set up the block, number 63, but this is a play after 2 successful, somewhat speaking, running plays for UMass. The 3rd opportunity here in the half goes nowhere.
Success is a relative term.
Yes.
When you're facing the Iowa defense, especially in the front 7, and they don't mind mixing it up to get some movement going. They had a spike stunt from the defensive tackle, Jonah Pace, and then fitting right off of that was Carson Shire. And that's exactly where you have to fit, because when you move the front like that, the back is going to see where the hole declares, so the backer has to be right in position.
4 years at Central Michigan for Jonah Pace. 12 starts last year, transfers to Iowa. Talking to Phil Parker yesterday, there aren't very many portal guys starting on the defense, but Bryce Hawthorne and Jonah Pace are in the defensive tackle rotation, and he said that both of those players have filled some gaps they've needed.
They like to keep fresh bodies rolling through up front as well with the energy they're forced to play with.
Just saw left guard Sullivan Weedman, who had been out the first 2 games, transfer from West Virginia. He just went out for UMass. Oh, and this is dropped. It is a forward pass, not a lateral, but dropped by the normally sure-handed Jaquan Gibson.
The communication between the 2nd and 3rd level of Iowa's defense, where there was a quick audible shown from the linebacker Carson Shire, letting the safety Xavier Wampa know that he was going to blitz, and Wampa immediately came from the 3rd level in the secondary. He was all over that swing pass.
Mal Flynn is in at right guard. They move Brown over to left guard with Weedman, the left guard, going out for UMass. Donnie Gray just went in motion across the formation. And here comes pressure. Graves hits Jordan as he throws it, and he overthrows Gibson. Aaron Graves has had a fantastic game, getting home to the quarterback there and forcing the inaccurate pass.
We're getting a look at why Aaron Graves is on virtually every watch list a defensive lineman can be on going into a season. Nagurski, Bednarik, you name it, he's on it. Penetration into the backfield, the quick club move over the top. But then after you get there, you beat the blocker, the burst to finish at the QB is what separates it.
UMass picked up 1 first down and a couple of runs by Rocco Griffin, but then the drive stalls out. A loss on first down on a run and then 2 incompletions. Will they kick it out of bounds? No, they're just going to kick it a long way. Wow, Keegan Andrews, an over-the-shoulder catch by Weegan at the 5-yard line. And then he's run all the way across the field. Weegan, what a night! What a return! He's gonna go! Caden Weegan, an over-the-shoulder catch at the 5, and all the way! point on his night, returning a 59-yard rainmaker of a punt, 95 yards for the score.
I understand why Caden Weegan is tired. I'm a bit winded myself, Mark, just watching that play out.
There is a player down right now, a UMass special teams player. Looks like corner TJ McGee is the individual who is down right now for UMass after that electrifying return by Caden Weegan. 95 yards.
You referenced the over the shoulder grab, and as a punt returner, you usually want to get your body in a position where you can field the ball with momentum moving forward, but the punt boomed too far for that to happen for Caden Weegan. So he cuts all the way across the field, and then he sees the goal line in his grasp, and like that, he's gone.
Well, Willie Mays would have been proud of the catch that he made of the ball. And then he seemed busting the tape after the 95-yard return. There is a UMass player down. The cart has come out on the field. We will be back in one moment here in Iowa City. Football can provide a range of emotions, and within seconds of each other, those emotions being experienced here at Kinnick Stadium. There was the electrifying 95-yard punt return for a touchdown by Caden Weegan. Been told, by the way, that is a Kinnick Stadium record. However, during that punt return, a hit on TJ McGee, a corner for UMass, has resulted in him being down, and a long time that he has been down, and a lot of individuals around him. The cart came on the field pretty quickly, and so we've had a delay here while TJ McGee has been receiving medical attention for several minutes after that punt return for a touchdown by Caden Weegan, which currently has the score at 36-7 with 12:39 left in the third quarter.
Much concern, understandably being shown by both coaching staffs. The UMass player, TJ McGee, down near the Iowa sideline. There's Kirk Ferentz nearby.
That's Joe Harasimiak, UMass's head coach. On the play in question, McGee was hit by an Iowa player and then contact with one of his own players. And then after that is when he went down, and the training staff went out. The cart came out on the field quickly, and the amount of medical personnel that was around McGee and tending to him went up very, very quickly. So this is obviously a situation, as you can see by the looks on players' faces for UMass, and the hush that has fallen over the crowd here is one of concern with 12:39 left in the third quarter of tonight's game.
Football being a sport where you're competing in between the whistles, the respect always there between the two teams. The UMass players down on one knee, many of the Iowa players down on one knee as well, as TJ McGee being tended to by medical professionals. There was immediate concern as he was on the ground, and pretty quickly his teammates motioned to medical personnel and their athletic training staff to come out onto the field and begin tending to their teammate who's down on the ground.
And given the nature of the injury, we're not going to be showing that replay and the continuing treatment here for TJ McGee, player for UMass, currently down on the field. We will step aside, and we'll be back here in just a moment on the Big Ten Network with Iowa leading this game 36-7 in the third quarter. The player on the cart for the UMass Minutemen is number 7, TJ McGee. He's a redshirt junior from Denham Springs, Louisiana. Since we've been in break, they have lifted him on the stretcher onto the cart. Obviously, you could see his head and neck immobilized. McGee is a transfer to UMass from playing at Davidson for the course of the last 3 years. And McGee was injured on a punt return for a touchdown by Caden Weegan from the Iowa Hawkeyes just moments ago. You see UMass, the players all huddled around Joe Harasimiak, the head coach for the Minutemen, who was just speaking to them, that is. As you see the cart headed off the field and back into the tunnel here at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. UMass players head back to their sideline, and let's get a report on the field from Danny Rogers. Danny?
Medical staff moved with a lot of urgency down here on the field. They screwed off TJ McGee's helmet before cutting off his pads and then immobilizing his head and neck on that backboard. I can tell you I saw him breathing, and I did see some movement in his fingers, which are all really good signs.
And thank you for that important information and the report, Danny. In addition to that, there are a lot of things to cover here. There was a review for a potential targeting on the play involving the first contact between Iowa safety Cale Kolarek and TJ McGee. And there was no foul for targeting on the play, so now we have the extra point after the 95-yard touchdown return, which ties it's a Kinnick Stadium record, and it ties an Iowa program record for the longest punt return in school history. To increase the lead to 30 points on the extra point by Drew Stevens. 12:39 to go in the third quarter. Legion with just an extraordinary night. Second touchdown, a run of 20 yards, a return there of 95 yards, and other big plays that he has made in the punt return game tonight. Next Saturday, the Ducks and Beavers will renew one of college football's great rivalries, the 129th meeting of Oregon State and Oregon. The action kicks off at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Today, Oregon led 34-0 at one point and beat Northwestern 34-14. The 16th straight conference win for the Oregon Ducks dating back to 2023.
Dante Moore, another big day. Finally turned the ball over. It was the very last play of the game. Ended up throwing an interception there. But the accuracy that's been on display from the Ducks quarterback has been remarkable.
Just a note on Caden Weechen. He now has 236 all-purpose yards in this game.
Just tonight?
Just tonight. 20 rushing, 34 kickoff return, 182 yards of punt returns tonight for Caden Weechen, including the spectacular 95-yard touchdown. And so you had that high, and then, of course, the grave concern for young TJ McGee, the injured player for UMass, who has been carted off. And now with 12:39 left in the third quarter, you've got to get back about the business of the game, which obviously is very different given the roller coaster of emotions in the last few minutes, Anthony.
We got to look at Joe Harasimiak getting his team together. They knelt in prayer for their teammate TJ McGee, and then he's got to go about the business of getting his players locked back in for action.
And the action will begin with Rocco Griffin running the ball, hit by Carson Shire, but after contact, he's still able to drive his way forward to the 31. A gain of 6 for Griffin.
Rocco Griffin was beginning to get some things going as a runner. It does seem that we talk about rhythm for quarterbacks as passers and getting them into a flow. The same can be said for running backs. When you get them some touches in the game, they can start to get lathered up, especially once they get a feel for how the defense flows and where those run lanes present themselves.
No running lane to present itself here. Griffin went in motion, they went empty, and there was nothing doing after the completed pass, a loss of a yard on the tackle by Carson Shire. As we check in with Dave Rebson with a studio update.
Hey, Mark, we told you at halftime the Buckeyes were in a battle with Ohio U, but Julian Sayin has opened things up here in the second half, hitting Carnell Tate for the long touchdown. 30-9 now, Ohio State.
And the score here not too far off of that number from the Ohio State game, 37-7. Iowa leading. UMass has not converted a third down in 6 tries tonight. They've also gone for it on 4th down and didn't convert. Jordan stepping back. Got a lot of oomph into that throw, and too much, perhaps, as he overthrows Jaquan Gibson. who had TJ Hall running alongside him in coverage.
TJ Hall, impressed man. So you can tell the eyes on the receiver the entire way. And then from there, as he sees the eyes of the wideout, flashback toward the football, having the presence of mind to get his eyes around as well. That shows a degree of comfort and confidence in coverage when you're willing as a corner out on the island to look back for the ball.
Look, the last punt by Keegan Andrews was a big punt. It forced Weegan into a very difficult catch, and he will not have a chance to recreate his magic and make another Willie Mays style catch. 1954 World Series, for those who want to go check it out.
Right.
No catch like that for Weegan, that is, as the punt goes out of bounds, and we're back after this timeout. Obviously, a big milestone is out there for Kirk Ferentz tonight. Milestone wins in his career, including number 100 on the road against Michigan State, October 13th, 2012. Late touchdown to force overtime. And then Mike Meyer in the second overtime hit a field goal for a 19-16 win. You saw the pregame picture on that rainy day in East Lansing of Kirk and longtime Spartans head coach Mark D'Antonio. Obviously, tonight's the night where Ferentz is poised to pass Woody Hayes for the most wins for a Big Ten head football coach, looking for number 206 here at Iowa. Malachi Madison just slammed Xavier Williams to the turf after a 2-yard run on first down. And
that pregame look at Kirk Ferentz and Mark D'Antonio, that might be the perkiest I've ever seen Mark D'Antonio look on a game day. But those are two guys who battled against each other so much in their times leading their respective programs in Big Ten football. D'Antonio on a very long and storied list of coaches who've done battle with Kirk Ferentz and have the utmost respect for him.
To throw Gronowski on 2nd down and 8. And he just completed his 12th pass of the game. Going to the ground to catch it is Dayton Howard, right at the yardage needed for the first down. At the line to gain the 40 as Ryan Barnes was on the coverage. So we look at tonight's advanced stat now, sponsored by IFS.AI. Gronowski and everything that Tim Lester told us yesterday, the explosive passing game has showed up in practices, especially this week. We just got to get it to translate to Saturday. It's translated tonight. More on that here after this first down play, as it's a run for Iowa for 3 yards as Patterson is down.
This West Coast offense, and there's been many iterations of it since Bill Walsh popularized it decades ago. But some of the adjustments that Tim Lester has brought to Iowa Hawkeye football, they still run the zone run scheme, but it's not the true wide stretch zone that we've historically thought of. It's what's known as the mid zone. So the offense still is generated by the zone run game, but the passing concepts are very different and frankly much more nuanced than Mark Gronowski's ever encountered.
Another running play, Patterson, and Patterson picks up a first down. That was 2nd down and 7 to 43, and into UMass territory on the run before Rashad Henry makes the tackle, but a nice size hole for Patterson to run the ball through.
These big guys are going to work for the Hawkeyes. I mean, Jennings Dunker at the right tackle, 2-time Soul and Beef Days champion, moving guys to widen the alley that's available.
Yeah, Dunker has won it twice. The last 2-time champion was Cade Beeper. There's Gronowski rolling. And there's a catch made along the sideline by Patterson. Out of bounds after a short gain. You know, by the way, we should know this is the first drive for Iowa in the second half. There was the long punt return, and then there was the long injury timeout as well. And you caught this before. Like the Iowa offense had to warm up before this drive started because it had been so long.
Between the 20-minute halftime and coming back out and having this length of real time before taking the field, everyone was out on the field just throwing and catching the football, getting a lather going again before taking the field.
So far, so good on the drive. Moving to the 44, a turn and toss. And T.J. Washington with the run. Will turn it upfield. Dragged down to the 40. Kendall Bournes missed the second half. He was ejected in last week's game for targeting in the final minute of the first half, but obviously back for the whole game for UMass tonight. And Bournes with the tackle.
T.J. Washington, a player who, because he was formerly a wide receiver and moving into the backfield as a running back, a lot of times those players, they love having the football in their hands, but they don't all love doing the dirty work. You watch the film in pass protection, he's willing to stick his nose in there.
And he may have another opportunity here on 3rd down and 4. No, they look to throw. And Hayden Large is the target. And he's able to make the grab, bumped out of bounds, but picks up the 1st down to the Minutemen 34-yard line.
It's been quite a career. Just the way the arc has developed for Hayden Large. More so a fullback early in his career, has been a tight end in the Tim Lester offense. But with that as a string out with the Achilles injury, we're seeing all these tight ends having to take a further expanded role as pass catchers.
Well, and proof that you can find players in a lot of places. Remember that Hayden Large played NAIA football for 3 years at Dortz in Sioux Center. Gronowski got a nice block, and then throwing the ball again to Hayden Large. And Large caught it right at the line of scrimmage and pushed backwards.
Sort of the give and take of a quarterback, where you want, as a play caller, to just allow your quarterback to throw the ball with trust. And so if Mark Gronowski doesn't like it, then Tim Lester certainly would want him forcing the football. But to expand his willingness to rip it, to take chances, throw into tight windows, allow the vertical pass to leave his hand, even if the receiver hasn't declared himself open.
With 2 catches on this drive, Large has 10 for the 3 years that he's played here at Iowa. And another turn and toss, and Patterson able to stay on his feet after some initial contact, but ultimately going down short of the 1st down at the 26.
And a lot of the conversation around the Iowa offense so far this season has been, well, why aren't you throwing the ball vertically? You go back to the opener against Albany, they thought.
As Patterson runs it again and absorbs some contact, 1st down. A grinding drive here, good running game and short passing down to the 23.
There was an expectation going into the season opener that they would see a lot of man coverage opportunities for shot plays. That didn't present itself. Albany came out running cover 2.
They're running with some tempo here on this, as this is at the 22 officially. And down inside the 20 into the red zone. Seth Anderson, who made his mark with 2 early touchdown catches tonight.
And showing this tempo, Mark, this to me is Tim Lester getting a little bit of juice into his offense, allowing some flow to get back into how they're operating. So last week against Iowa State, he started to get Mark Gronowski on the move, not just running into the teeth of the defense, but sprint action, boot action, getting him outside the pocket.
They've had some shot plays, to your point tonight, Anthony, but now a time-consuming drive and another 1st down. Patterson to the 9 before being tackled by Timmy Henspeter.
Logan Jones, that former defensive lineman, between himself and Bo Stevens, this is going to be a handful, especially once they get into Big Ten play, because each of those guys, they play with such fantastic pad level.
Patterson slips 1 tackle and then can't keep his balance and find the end zone, but plunges inside the 5-yard line.
A lot of times when you see offensive linemen, once they meet contact with the opposing defensive front, their feet stop. The Iowa O-line runs off the football.
Even with the tempo that they played with on this drive, coming up on 7 minutes of clock time on this drive, as the tackle's made by Marcus White. Crashing down off the edge, White with the tackle. And a little bit of yardage lost on the play, as a matter of fact. Just outside the 5 is where the ball will be on 3rd and goal.
Some quality penetration from the Minutemen defense, forcing the run play to Belly. That gives the defense some extra time to flow to the football.
Iowa had a couple of 16-play drives last week. This is their longest drive of the night. How will it end with Gronowski eluding the rush, stopping, maybe thinking about a throwback across the field, and he's eluded a couple of tackles. Oh, the ball is fumbled forward, and then Karams out of bounds off a player. Marcus White forced the fumble for UMass, but it goes out of bounds off a Minutemen player. I believe it bounced off Rashad Henry when he had a chance to recover it on the bounce of the goal line, Ant.
This play had more twists and turns than a theme park roller coaster. I mean, Mark Gronowski was refusing to get tackled, looked abundantly confident that no one could bring him down one-on-one at 235 pounds. But then Marcus White, with the hustle, came and poked the football away from behind.
Which means that Drew Stevens will end up with a field goal attempt here of 27 yards. Tonight, Stevens has hit from 54, and by the narrowest of margins, missed from 38. And to give Iowa 40 points in tonight's game, he does precisely that with 2:58 left in the third quarter. On his way to an historic win, number 206 at Iowa, the most for a coach in Big Ten history, Coach Kirk Ferentz. Football on the Big Ten Network is brought to you by Anderson Windows and Doors. Trust your home to Anderson. Hawkeyes having a lot of fun tonight. It's a 40-7 lead for Iowa.
Look at that. It is a gold out here at Kinnick, so I assume the banana costume, that counts.
Absolutely.
At least for tonight.
That's a little golder than the traditional banana that you would be able to buy at the store.
I only buy the goldest of animals. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm more of a green guy. You know, that's what I'm kind of going for. I like the less ripe. Samuel Badu with a fair catch here on the kickoff. And so UMass, the offense, will come out on the field with the ball at the 25, and Iowa in front 40-7. On Wednesday, we've got a star-studded volleyball doubleheader coming your way. First, Penn State battles Pitt. That's a top 15 showdown. Then 6th-ranked Wisconsin faces Marquette in Milwaukee. The best volleyball in the land in the Big Ten Conference. And coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. You'll see two of those ranked teams for the Big Ten on Wednesday nights. So A.J. Hairston, who does have some experience under his belt in his time at UMass, he's out on the field, and Hairston's first pass, that is, of tonight's game is incomplete, as he was looking for Jax Markovich on that particular play. So 4 passes this year for Hairston, 73 attempts in 4 games last year, 5 touchdowns last season, and 6 in total, either through the air or on the ground in his UMass career.
He's a freshman out of Pompano Beach, Florida. They're really excited about the arm talent that he brings to the table. Arm strength for the most part right now with the live arm he displays.
That was just the 4 appearances last year. They didn't burn his red shirt. So redshirt freshman from Pompano Beach, Hairston throws the ball, and it's caught. And it's the preferred target of whoever is playing quarterback for UMass. Another catch for Jaquan Gibson. Let's get a report from Danny Rogers down on the field. Danny.
On Iowa's last offensive drive, left guard Bo Stevens had some friendly fire with teammate Jazz Patterson. They got rolled up on each other. Stevens was slow to get up after that 2nd and 4 play. Took a seat on the sideline before entering the medical tent for a few minutes. He just left the medical tent. He was walking fine. I'll keep you updated on his status going forward.
All right, thanks, Danny. Tonight's the 24th career start for the senior from Blue Springs, Missouri, Bo Stevens. There's that arm talent you're talking about, Anthony. That is a long throw to the sideline and on the money to Gibson at the 49 of Iowa.
They certainly were being honest about A.J. Hairston's arm. This is a laser from one hash mark all the way towards the other sideline.
He hit the bullseye on that throw, no doubt about it. Went for 13 yards to Gibson. Now running opportunity and a crash at the 49-yard line of Iowa. So that goes from 149 to the other one on that run by Elijah Faulkner. Faulkner has only carried the ball one other time this year from Central Catholic High School in the Pittsburgh area.
In the latter stages of the third quarter, for Joe Harris-Simiak, you certainly still want, and I'm sure he and Mike Bajaki and his offensive coordinator, they've been having this conversation. Where can we continue to improve heading into what will be a bye week for the Minutemen?
Their next game is on the road against Missouri after that bye week. Hairston, and the ball's batted back. Now Iowa's going to chase this here, but now it's been ruled incomplete. The tip made by Luke Gaffney, junior defensive tackle.
It's a UMass program that had been struggling quite a bit in recent years. Former Michigan defensive coordinator Don Brown was leading Minuteman football for a few seasons. Now they're back in the MAC. It's a big job that Harris-Semiak has to try and get this program right.
Their most wins in a season, 4 since they've gone into FBS since 2012. But at the FCS level, remember, UMass won a national championship in 1998 and played Appalachian State for the title and lost in 2007. Back into the game is Grant Jordan. Hairston been the quarterback on the drive, and now Jordan returns on 3rd down and 10, completes a pass, but short of the first down. Tyree Kelly caught it, but out of bounds, that is, at the 43 of the Hawkeyes.
Intriguing rotation at QB. Now, both Jordan and Hairston were with the team during spring ball. The starter in the first couple of games of this season, Brandon Rose, was out injured during the spring. So it is a little bit surprising if there's still a play or two that Grant Jordan knows how to run, that A.J. Hairston doesn't know how to run, but here's Hairston back in the game.
This is the second time they've gone for it on 4th down in the game. Hairston back in. And also in the game is Brandon Hood. He's split out. 4th and 4, incomplete. Both 4th down plays have been 4th and 4, and both of them have been unsuccessful for the Minutemen in this game, as Zach Lutmer was on coverage of that pass intended for the tight end, Markovich. Nine seconds left in the 3rd quarter. Looks like Hank Brown is coming into the game now here for Iowa at the end of the 3rd quarter. By the way, an important injury update. We've just been notified by staff from UMass that corner TJ McGee, he's alert, moving his extremities, and has been transported to the hospital for further evaluation. He was down for quite some time on that long punt return for a touchdown by Caden Weegan earlier in the 3rd quarter. So the junior from Denham Springs, Louisiana for UMass, an important update regarding his condition. Hank Brown is in the game for Iowa. And we see freshman Nathan McNeil on the ball for the first time tonight. He had 3 carries for 14 yards in the opener against UAlbany. Well, Iowa's opened up the lead to 40-7. It's been a big night for Caden Weegan. It's going to be a bigger night in this 4th quarter for Kirk Ferentz.
My only goal was ever to be the best line coach I could be. I was perfectly happy. Coaching the offensive line, I really loved it. So happened that I ended up being the head coach at Iowa. You just try to do things well, and you try to do things that would make the people that have influenced your life proud. Simple as that.
He's on 205 wins at Iowa right now as he's headed towards this milestone. Kirk's issued that line a lot about he didn't have dreams of being a longtime head coach. He just wanted to be the best offensive line coach he could be. By the way, from 1981 to 1989 at Iowa for Hayden Fry, he was an outstanding offensive line coach before going on to be the head football coach at Maine Anthony, and then the NFL as an offensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns, then Baltimore Ravens. But he found his place and he found his people here at Iowa when he came on board in late 1998, beginning football-wise in the 1999s.
Mark, we didn't know exactly what to make of Kirk Ferentz at first. Myself, my teammates who were on the squad at that time, there were a lot of rumors about different individuals. You know, Bob Stoops' name was the most famous one as the preeminent Hawkeye alum who had risen to prominence in his own right as a coordinator. Kirk got the gig.
McNeil with a big run. And the true freshman, they certainly like Tim Lester, the offensive coordinator. Kirk said this as well. They like the juice that he can provide to the running game. He's got some explosive playability, and McNeil runs this down near the 31 of UMass. There is a defender for the Minutemen. As a matter of fact, 2 of them down on this particular play. Ryan Barnes and Kendall Bournes, 2 defensive backs in a secondary hit very hard by injuries in the first 3 weeks for the Minutemen. And 2 players down right now with 14-11 left in the game. Those two injured UMass players walked off with some assistance during that injury timeout. There's Kirk Ferentz on the Iowa sideline. Now, this is the Daily Iowan. You were just talking about what happened back in 1998. Ferentz to follow Fry. I love the alliteration of that headline in the Daily Iowan, by the way.
Leave it to the DI. Yeah.
December 3rd, 1998. That was one day after the hiring was announced. Here's a throw for the end zone by Hank Brown, and incomplete for K.J. Parker. Will bring it 2nd down and 10. So we were talking a moment ago, and there was a play for Iowa that stopped the train of thought. But you said you didn't know, your teammates didn't know what to think back in 1998 when that happened.
At the time, for me, it was 2 years into my Iowa career. I had my first 2 years there with Hayden Fry, and as we found out Coach Fry was going to retire, then everyone was trying to figure out who would be the man to step into those shoes, those iconic boots, if you will, for Hayden Fry, for everything he had meant to the Big Ten Conference and Hawkeye football specifically.
Follow that up in a moment. Nathan McNeil running again on 2nd down and 10, and he was hit at the 27 by Tyler Martin.
And to be frank, Mark, I mean, there were many other names, at least several other names who, at least those of us who were with the program in the late 90s, were more familiar with, because Kirk Ferentz had gone to the National Football League as an assistant coach to some prominence there. And him returning to the program, to a lot of folks' surprise, Bob Bowlesby, who was the athletic director at the time, made that hire to bring in Kirk Ferentz. And here we sit with him on the cusp of the all-time wins lead in this conference.
The longest tenured coach right now, of course, in FBS. McNeil catches a pass out of the backfield, hanging on for the ride and keeping him short of the 1st down for UMass. It was Rashad Henry. Wrapped him up at the 25, just inside it. 27 seasons, just one win over Northern Illinois in that first season.
That one fateful win in 1999.
And Kirk, you know, he was so honest with us yesterday. He said 2-18 in my first 20 games. He goes, I think in today's world, I don't know if I would have survived.
It was over a year until we got win number 2, and that was his first Big Ten win. Happened to be against the Michigan State Spartans.
Charged. Timeout called
Team
now
timeout.
by UMass.
University of Massachusetts.
12:36 left in the game. Hawkeyes have the ball on a 4th down at the UMass 24. Tonight is going to be a special win for Kirk Ferentz, and maybe the most special one prior to this, of course, passing Hayden Fry. Season opener 2018, a victory over Northern Illinois, 33-7. Nate Stanley had a touchdown pass to Noah Fant that broke the game open in the 3rd quarter. There's the bust of the legendary Hayden Fry, who came to Iowa from the University of North Texas, then North Texas State in 1978 after some great seasons there. 4th down and 3, and a completion to keep the drive going. Iowa went for it, and DJ Bonami with the catch. They move it down to the 16-yard line of the Minutemen.
They like a lot about Hank Brown. And just as I referenced the UMass quarterbacks, the current starter injured during the spring, the 2 backups got all the work. Same thing for the Hawkeyes. Hank Brown, Jeremy Hiklinski, they were both there for spring ball and healthy. Mark Gronowski had to sit back and learn through the repetition of watching them, mental reps.
Hank Brown played 5 games in 2 years at Auburn. This is a run off the right side of the 11 for T.J. Washington. Brown threw 43 passes in those 5 games that he played in his 2 seasons at Auburn. And this is his 2nd game here in his time at Iowa.
Brother who plays college football. Father was an All-American soccer star at the college level.
Well, do stay tuned. There's still a lot to come tonight as Kirk Ferentz heads towards history. We've got 11.5 minutes into the game, and some very special moments in store as this game comes to and ultimately reaches its conclusion. It's not officially in the books yet, but will be soon. T.J. Washington pushes this Iowa drive further down the field. Zachary Ferris bumps him out of bounds. It will be 1st and goal at the 2-yard line. With 11:16 left, play stop. There's an injured player here. Tim Passmore Jr. is down right now for UMass.
And sometimes as a back, you try to figure out when is it time to get north and south. This time, T.J. Washington trusting his speed to try and turn the corner. A lot of opportunities for running backs to see when they can get a feel for, as they work sideways, going laterally, when can they plant that foot to get vertical.
With Tim Passmore Jr. down, we will step aside for this injury here with 11:16 left. Anthony, there was a lot of healthy growth in the statistics from 2023 to 2024 as Tim Lester took over as offensive coordinator last year, former Western Michigan head coach. Season number 2, the big stats haven't been there in the first 2 games, but tonight, obviously a different story.
Growth in the run game in 2024, showing signs of growth in the pass game in 2025.
Big plays tonight. Now a chance for a touchdown throw, and it's on the money. K.J. Parker from Hank Brown. Speaking of Tim Lester, he raved about K.J. Parker, how well he played in spring ball, what he looked like in summer workouts. Getting that touchdown to K.J. Parker results in a high five in the booth. And for Parker, he has his first collegiate catch from Bellwood, Illinois, redshirt freshman. It's a touchdown.
And he continued to work that route toward the pylon. He didn't throttle down at all. So that put it on his quarterback, Hank Brown, to make sure he got the football out in front of him. It's a gorgeous throw and catch.
K.J. Parker was a state champ in Illinois in 2022 at Icy Catholic Prep, Immaculate Conception Catholic Prep in Bellwood, Illinois. He had over 2,250 yards receiving and 27 touchdowns in 3 years as a high school wide receiver. And so hopes are high for him. And he starts off his Iowa career with a 2-yard touchdown reception.
Kirk Ferentz, Tim Lester, they feel like there's reinforcements on the way for this Iowa offense as well. Kamari Bolton, their starting running back, not healthy yet. He's been dinged up, hoping to get him back soon. And also, Reese Vanderzee, perhaps the most talented of all the different wideouts. He's been banged up as well. He may not be back quite as quickly as Kamari Bolton, but they do anticipate having Vanderzee return to the lineup as well. So theoretically, your best running back and your best receiver returning to this offense in the weeks to come should continue to bolster the way that Iowa can attack with the football. And that's really the main word amongst anything else. Tim Lester's been trying to infuse the confidence, in some ways the willingness, for his quarterback Mark Gronowski to take some shots, to let that deep ball rip. And a lot of it is just about the repetitions necessary for Mark Gronowski to attain that confidence in game action, especially because he wasn't a part of anything during spring ball aside from those mental reps. So even things just like the quarterback drop, the pull from center, taking the correct step, the timing, the smoothness that's necessary as he's doing that. A lot of these things he's still improving at because he's only had a few weeks actually on the field to work at.
Tim Lester brought up footwork yesterday and said that footwork is a really important component of the offensive system that they run. Footwork by the quarterback, that is. So that was another aspect, to your point. 47-7, the lead after the K.J. Parker touchdown reception a moment ago, a kickoff into the end zone. And UMass will come out after this touchback as we get a little bit more on Tim Lester from Danny Rogers. Danny.
Coach Lester was in quarterback Mark Gronowski's ear all week long saying, hey, why didn't you throw that? Hey, can you throw the ball downfield here? And just to reinforce that message, Lester was wearing a shooter's shoot hat on Fridays in the facility. That is what he does every Friday. It's a homage to Shooter McGavin of Happy Gilmore. It is to reinforce the message that he wants this offense to work the ball downfield, stretch the game vertically, and they've listened this game. Everyone on offense, even the 2s and 3s that have worked into this game.
Well, Danny, aggressiveness is it's a symbiotic relationship and the offense between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. Here's A.J. Hairston, by the way, in the game for UMass at quarterback. And, he's going to look to throw here. We've seen the arm talent tonight, and we see it again. A throw to the sideline for the longest play of the game, yardage-wise here for UMass, as Donnie Gray catches it. That went for 23 yards.
There's easy heat coming off the right arm of A.J. Hairston. When they told us he had a live arm, they were certainly being completely honest with that assessment. It's just a quick boogie whip motion. You can tell by the flick of the wrist that he's got confidence in all the RPMs he can put on it.
Able to spin it for 23 yards to Donnie Gray to put UMass now just barely over 100 yards of total offense in this game. A 47-7 lead Nowhere to go for Elijah Faulkner. A host of defenders hit him after a short pickup. See Zach Tweet in the game. He gets up off the bottom of the pile, part of that tackle. Also Landon Van Kickericks as well. There's Zach Tweet. Yeah, my point about aggressiveness and the symbiotic relationship of offensive coordinator and quarterback of the offense, Tim Lester said, I've got plans to call it more aggressively than I normally do. But then when you have a chance to take a shot in this offense as the quarterback, you got to be aggressive. You've got to take your shot when that opportunity presents itself. And done so successfully, certainly more often than not tonight for the Hawkeyes. Here's heavy pressure, and Harrison's safety valve pass at the last minute is dropped by Brandon Hood.
So much has to come together correctly for a passing attack. Not only the quarterback reading it correctly to diagnose it, the willingness to cut it loose, but then also the receivers being where they're supposed to be. And that's been an issue, especially in last week's game. A few unscouted looks from the Iowa State Cyclones, but as much as anything, their defense is so hybrid on the back end. Sometimes you can't tell who's a safety, who's a corner, who's a nickel, who's a linebacker. They're all over the place, and it's really difficult to diagnose.
Just a moment ago, the camera was on Jalen Watson, number 3 for Iowa, a player that defensive coordinator Phil Parker raved about yesterday and said, great speed, excellent student of the game. I need to find a way to get him more reps. Watson, the sophomore from Central Catholic in Toledo. And there's Phil, and as we wind down towards the end of this historic night, obviously continuity of staff is such a key part of the equation. And what Kirk has learned over his career, and part of what's told the story here at Iowa, and Phil Parker's been here for all soon to be 206 of those wins. DB coach from 99 to 2011. Ooh, that is a poor punt. Line drive, maybe a partial tip. Ball goes out of bounds. And then Phil Parker, Anthony to button up that point, then becoming the defensive coordinator, replacing Norm Parker in 2012.
It was a completely revamped coaching staff. Brett Bielema was kept on the defensive side of the football. Chuck Long, who was previously Hayden Fry's DB coach, all-time great QB here for the Hawkeyes, he moved over to become the quarterback's coach. And Norm Parker comes in to run the Iowa defense. Phil Parker joins him. Stylistically, even though Kirk Ferentz was a Hayden Fry disciple, there was a different approach on each side of the football. Hayden loved to run the football, there's no doubt about that. But there was going to be more boom or bust to the offense. And defensively, initially, Bobby Elliott was my defensive coordinator. You look at the success that Iowa's had since 2016 on defense. Number 2 in the country in scoring defense over that time. Only the Georgia Bulldogs with a slight edge there. But we were a stem front who was one gap penetrating into the backfield under Bobby Elliott. Norm Parker came in on the defensive line. We had to add weight. We bulked up. We were what's known as two-gapping, which Iowa still does at this point, where you line up on a tighter shade.
Offense, number 60, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Over the offensive line, and then you're wrestling with the big guys up front. It was a bit more, much more static as a defense. So it's intriguing that Kirk learned so many things about being a head coach from Hayden Fry, but still had his spin on it for what could add to consistency for this program. We've seen that consistency play out, but now into season 27.
And certainly it looks like that the defensive numbers already very good for this season going into tonight. At 11.5 points a game allowed, are poised to improve. The Iowa offense on the field right now with Nathan McNeil running the ball here after that penalty on Iowa a moment ago.
Timeout on the field for an injured defensive player.
Malachi Madison is the injured defensive player on the field right now. From a UMass perspective, injury-wise, the most significant one earlier in the game was early in the third quarter, TJ McGee down on the field and requiring a lot of medical attention, a real sense of urgency. He was immobilized on a stretcher, placed on the cart, taken off the field on the cart. But again, if you're just tuning in, if you maybe have stepped away from the game for a moment, we were told by staff from UMass that TJ McGee was moving his extremities, was alert, and then was transported to the hospital for further evaluation. So we have this injury timeout right now with 8:47 left in the game. Almost midway through the fourth quarter. Kirk Ferentz won game number 205 when Iowa beat UAlbany in the opener. That tied him with Woody Hayes for the most coaching victories in Big Ten football history. So we are 8.5 minutes approximately away. Boy, there's some of that ability of K.J. Parker. Put his foot in the ground and made a man miss and turned up field to the 30-yard line.
You referenced earlier how Tim Lester mentioned to us on the practice field, they've seen much of the growth of their passing attack. And they're practicing against the Iowa defense. So when you're making plays and you're completing the vertical pass against the Hawkeyes, you're getting something done. But it only matters so much in practice. To see the results in game action as we have tonight, those are the true signs of success.
And here in the fourth quarter of the game, Hank Brown has had a chance to show some of his chops in terms of that passing game. It's been predominantly opportunities to run, but we have seen some passes along the way here by Brown, who was 4 of 5 for 23 yards and 1 touchdown in his playing time here in the second half of the game. We were talking about footwork earlier, and one of the things that Tim Lester told us was that Hank Brown is a player that Mark Gronowski can watch. And he said that he loves the quarterback room, how they're all learning from each other. And he said the best footwork as it relates to how to run this offense is Hank Brown.
He's smooth with the pull from center as he receives the QB center exchange.
And just hands the ball here to McNeil, who has had a lot of opportunity to play. Probably should point out it's good that Iowa has had a chance from their perspective to rotate in a lot of players and bring some of the ones off the field a little bit earlier. It is a one-day shorter turnaround. Next game is against Rutgers next Friday night.
On Friday night, a short week, first Big Ten game of the season for the Iowa Hawkeyes. You could really sense the bad taste in their mouth, and I've unfortunately tasted it myself when you lose to the in-state rival Cyclones. They were eager to get back onto the field tonight.
McNeil with another opportunity, trying to bounce it to the outside, but nowhere to go as he's stopped by Timmy Hinspeter, among others, at the line of scrimmage. The final drive recaps the entire day around the conference. Tonight at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. And, of course, one of the lead stories will be the occurrence of what's going to happen here when this game goes final in just over 6 minutes here in Iowa City. As Kirk Ferentz poised to pass Woody Hayes for the most coaching wins in Big Ten football history. Going to be a screen pass here. It's caught by McNeil. He's had all the touches, and this is going to be one of his biggest and best opportunities with the ball. Got out into space on the pass. And a long run down into UMass territory, bumped out of bounds around the 30-yard line.
All these reps matter. I know the game is out of hand at this point, but to get the confidence infused into a variety of playmakers will end up mattering, because especially once you get into the depths of a 9-game Big Ten conference schedule, with the schedule that Iowa will face this season, you'll need a variety of playmakers. You'll need multiple levels on the line of scrimmage, O-line and D-line, to be prepared to step into action.
There's Ron Daniel, who's been one of the starting caliber players for UMass, who's been injured in the early part of the season, is playing tonight. Perhaps a bit unexpectedly. It was a last-second decision to be able to get the go tonight, and Daniel was part of that tackle on the previous play. Hinspeter on the tackle there as McNeil picks up more yardage to the 18, another first down. A 12-yard gain for McNeil. He's had all of the opportunities here in the fourth quarter, and now going down to 5 on the depth chart, Brevin Dahl, who has dealt with some injuries. David Anaha on the tackle as we go under 5 minutes left. A lot of eyes, obviously, right now on Kirk Ferentz. Said, I have a lot of respect for what's happening here, but it was obvious in talking to him yesterday that when this is in the rearview mirror, he certainly will be pleased to no longer have to answer questions about himself. Got a 2nd down and 9 play here as we head towards the last 4 minutes of the game. And Brevin Dahl down inside the 20-yard line with Tim Grant Randall on the tackle. As we noted earlier, Kirk grew up in the Pittsburgh area, Upper St. Clair, Pennsylvania. Was there in the early 70s. Captain of his football team in high school. We got an injury on the field, so we'll revisit a little bit more of this when we return to tonight's game in 30 seconds. The 205 wins going into tonight for Kirk Ferentz. A numerical breakdown of those. 128 of those have been within the conference. We heard Anthony talking about their first conference win back when he was playing here in 2000 against Michigan State. 126 home wins. And their big rivalry games with Iowa State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and for Floyd of Rosedale when they play Minnesota, 54 rivalry wins, 31 wins against ranked teams, and 10 bowl victories as well. And the historic number 206 is less than 4 minutes away. Ball is at the 15-yard line. There was a player down a moment ago, Rashad Henry for the UMass Minutemen, and he was helped off the field during that brief timeout. Brevin Dahl with some carries. Now Nathan McNeil is back in the game. At tight end, Michael Burt is in the game as well. Now for Iowa, here's a pass by Brown, and KJ Parker, who has one touchdown tonight, unable to hang on to that one, which may not have been a touchdown, but certainly would have put Iowa in position for a first and goal situation. As we noted earlier, Parker starred at IC Catholic Prep, won a state championship at Bellwood, Illinois. Had 27 receiving touchdowns in his high school career. Has his first in his time with the Hawkeyes tonight, but doesn't hang on to the ball in that opportunity. Iowa's gone for it on fourth down here one time in the fourth quarter of the game. They go for it again. This is at the 15-yard line on 4th and 7, and the run for McNeil will come up short. And so UMass will take over on downs at the 11-yard line with 3:25 remaining in tonight's game. Dante Moore leads the 4th-ranked Ducks into a rivalry showdown with Oregon State. That's next Saturday at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. The most played FBS rivalry is the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. Minnesota and Wisconsin, when Oregon and Oregon State play for the 129th time next weekend. That will tie for the second most frequently played rivalry in FBS history. Georgia and Auburn and North Carolina and Virginia have met 129 times and will play their 130th games of their respective rivalries later on this year. Completed pass there for A.J. Hairston as UMass's Dallas Elliott with his first catch of the season out to the 19-yard line. We're talking about all the breakdown of the numbers for Kirk Ferentz's wins over the years. There will be something new in the equation tonight, in that Iowa and UMass have never played, so it's 64 different programs that Ferentz has a win against once this one goes final, of the what will soon to be 206 victories for Kirk Ferentz here at Iowa. Woody Hayes 205 at Ohio State. Amos Alonzo Stagg 199. Bo Schembechler. Along the way, he's passed Joe Paterno and, of course, Hayden Fry in his time here at Iowa. It's fun to talk with Kirk about those names yesterday, and he said, those were coaches that I watched growing up on Saturdays. And I said, with Keith Jackson announcing their names. And he said that Joe Pa really looked after him in terms of being a young coach in his early years in the Big Ten. He passed him a few seasons ago, and he's about to pass Woody Hayes in 2 more minutes. Stay tuned for the conclusion of the game right after this.
Dave Refson, Marcel Reese. Kirk Ferentz about to make history. What stood out, Marcel?
I'm going to say Iowa keeping their foot on the gas and putting up 47 points.
Well, offenses look good. Hey, as soon as the game's over, we're going to hear from Kirk Ferentz on the field. You'll want to keep it here for the post-game as well. We're going to take his post-game news conference, so a ton more Hawkeyes coverage still to come after the game. But let's send it back for the last couple minutes now. Mark, Anthony, take it away, guys.
When I asked Kirk Ferentz about this potential milestone yesterday that's 2 minutes away from occurring, he said, I've been in a place with good people who are supportive and understand the bigger picture. The real work has been done by the players and the coaches and support staff who treat this as more than a job. And he said, the other thing, of course, is my wife, Mary. She's raised our kids. There's a lot of highs and lows in what we do, and she's never flinched. And now Kirk Ferentz, 2 minutes away from win number 206, the most for any football coach in the history of the Big Ten. And, of course, as we said a moment ago, Kirk said that a lot of the work is done by the players, and a player that I know he loved coaching. I could see the bond between them yesterday. And Anthony Herron, who's been in the booth with me tonight, he's down on the field now. He is going to have a chance to interview his former coach after this historic victory here in a few minutes. How you feeling down there? What's it like down there right now, Big Ant?
Anticipation's pretty high for me personally. I mean, normally if I'm in a scenario like this, near the Iowa cheerleader squad, but it's about a program and frankly a man who I care dearly for. So it's a bit of a surreal sort of out-of-body experience because I've been in the media for a long time, but that entire time I've been in sports media, I've always done everything I can to represent the University of Iowa Hawkeyes. And so to have this night, it is a really surreal opportunity. I've heard from so many different teammates throughout the week, been interacting with them about this milestone that our old coach has now an opportunity to experience. And for so many of us who were here that night, it was almost 26 years ago to the day, to the night, frankly, with that Northern Illinois victory, what this program has accomplished, what Kirk Ferentz has led this program to in the decades since then. Everyone has just been gobsmacked by it, and it's gratifying to see the way he continues to lead the Hawkeyes.
Anthony, it's very special that you're about to get the chance to interview him. I just saw the handshake between Phil Parker and Kirk Ferentz a moment ago. He got the Gatorade bath. We just saw the last snap of tonight's game. The players are surrounding him, and the final seconds tick off this historic win. In a few seconds, it is official. In college football's oldest and most decorated conference, there's a new man atop the rung of the ladder of legendary coaches. It's official, number 206 for Kirk Ferentz on September 13th, 2025, 47-7 over UMass. And Kirk Ferentz passes Woody Hayes for most coaching wins in Big Ten football history. Roll that counter over from 205 to 206. And now we're going to see some, I think, very special post-game moments on the field. We just heard from Anthony. Now, the interesting aspect of this is Kirk does not realize that his former player and a player on his first 2 seasons of teams here at the University of Iowa is going to be interviewing him. So we'll have a chance to see maybe some live reaction, some surprise whenever Kirk sees Anthony's going to do the interview. Outstanding Matt Wetzel from Iowa's Strategic Communications Sports Information staff is moving Kirk over the direction of Big Ant right now.
Makes you even better.
Snuck down here. Yeah, I was up there a few moments ago.
That's fair.
Snuck down here to be with you on this moment. Kirk Ferentz, it was almost 20